This program on Eagle Communications is brought to you in part by American Family Insurance, Brian Teichman Agency, The Devil's Tale, Stacy's Restaurant, Hampton Inn, Coach's Restaurant, Coyote's Saloon, Magnolias, T.O. Haas, Sheer Effects, Bella's Italian Restaurant, Shelter Insurance, Mindy Litzinger Agent, Tees Hair Design, Rainbow International, Mahaska Bottling Company of Salina, Kansas, and Eagle Communications.
Hi, Dennis Weiss for Eagle Communications, bringing you a special message from some of our sponsors about Veterans Day. So I rounded up my favorite veteran, Jim Tapp. Good morning, Jim.
Good morning, Dennis.
We think back about Veterans Day, and I Googled this so I could get it right, but you know, it was the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month that the armistice was signed with Germany in 1918, and that started Armistice Day. Then about 1957, Dwight David Eisenhower, as president, signed a law that created a national holiday that has come to be known as Veterans Day. But you know, Veterans Day is about remembering veterans. Memorial Day is about remembering people who have lost their lives in our service. And Jim, you're the best example I know of the vast majority of people who went out, served their country for a long time, came home, formed a career, raised a family, and made the world a better place. So give us a little bit of insight into your military life.
Well, I started out quite young. I was just 17, and as a result of two brothers in the Army that were older than me, the youngest one just convinced me that that was the right place for me to start maturing, and that's what it was. I was quite young, as I said, went behind the ears, and I have to give him credit for getting me started in the Army. And it wasn't many years that I realized that I loved the Army. It was good for me. I spent nearly 10 years in the Army, and then as a result of a good hunting friend, he told me or convinced me that the grass was greener on the other side of the fence, which was the Air Force.
And above the fence.
And above the fence, yeah. And so I changed branches, and I spent 20 years total in the military.
And when you got out, you went to work in El Paso, making the water flow to the right place, and had a long career there in public service. What brought you back to Abilene?
I guess my wife was an Abilene girl. We met. She moved to Missouri. I'm a native Missourian, but I was stationed over here at Fort Raleigh after Korea, and she and her family moved back to Abilene. So it made it very convenient for me to continue dating from before when they lived in Missouri. And then we got married in 1954 here in Abilene. So I really call Abilene home, even though I wasn't born here. I think it's a kind of a tendency that the man follows the woman.
Well, whether we want to admit it or not, I think you're probably right. You know, you mentioned your Fort Riley connection. We still have a strong connection in Abilene to Fort Riley, and I know the sponsors of this program have a lot of soldier boys and girls and the families of those folks that shop in their stores every day. And even though we may have them for a little while, we are always wanting them, when they get done with their service, to come to Abilene and live. So you're a great leader in that.
Well, it's always nice to know that the city supports the soldiers here, particularly from Fort Raleigh. I felt at home. I was welcomed here. Most of the people that I come acquainted with realized that I was a military man, but they made me feel just at home. So I know Abilene is a great city that does support the military. And I hope that the military is aware and also looks favorable toward the citizens of Abilene.
You know, you and I were discussing in the car on the way over, we have the Eisenhower Presidential Library and Museum, and what a treasure that is. But I see a lot of the military people either there or in some of my other work, but they often express to me just what you said. I think that they do appreciate what Abilene does for the community of the armed forces. And we do see a lot of people in uniform, and we see a lot of spouses and kids. We had Chapman's superintendent, Lacey Sell, on camera a while back, and she's talking about how important the military families are to their school and what they do to make them feel welcome. So, you know, this being a program about Veterans Day, November the 11th, those folks out there can take the opportunity to say hi to a veteran as well. And here's a good face. If you run into this one, you can thank him for his long service. And there's a lot of folks in Abilene just like you, Jim.
Right. I had the privilege of years ago in 1947 and 48, General Eisenhower was my supreme commander in Europe. I was over there in the occupation. So I was wearing the same patch on my left shoulder that he was wearing. So
Very cool.
I consider him my general, so I am proud to be a citizen of Abilene, and hopefully Abilene will continue to respect the military, and the military will respect Abilene for what they do.
We can't say it any better than that. So for Eagle Communications, I'm Dennis Weiss, and this is my good friend and now father-in-law, Jim Tapp. We wish you a very good Veterans Day.
This program on Eagle Communications is brought to you in part by American Family Insurance, Brian Teichman Agency, The Devil's Tale, Stacy's Restaurant, Hampton Inn, Coach's Restaurant, Coyote's Saloon, Magnolias, T.O. Haas, Sheer Effects, Bella's Italian Restaurant, Shelter Insurance, Mindy Litzinger Agent, Tees Hair Design, Rainbow International, Mahaska Bottling Company of Salina, Kansas, and Eagle Communications.